WNBA finals. And so I'll leave it there. I mean, I'm just obviously disheartened. You know, I'm a human too. I have a family. I have 2 kids who are devastated by these comments. And so all I'll say is just, you know, it's obviously.
Think the WNBA is all about celebrating a historic season and its rising superstars? Think again. Right now, behind closed doors, the league is on the verge of an unprecedented collapse. This isn't about a game-winning shot. It's about a power play that could cancel games, shatter dynasties, and change women's sports forever. Just before the holidays, the players took a vote that sent a shockwave through the entire organization. An overwhelming 98% of them authorized their union leaders to call a strike. For the first time in the history of the league, its athletes are officially ready to walk away. This isn't a simple contract dispute. It's a full-blown war over money, respect, and control. And the fuse was lit by comments so shocking they made even the most decorated MVP in the game say she was disgusted. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the negotiations threatening to blow up the WNBA. Stick around, because what you're about to hear will change how you see the entire league. Before we dive into the chaos, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. The situation is changing daily, and you won't want to miss a single update on this developing story. The WNBA is now a ticking time bomb. In an unprecedented show of unity, a staggering 98% of players voted to authorize their union leaders to call a strike, a weapon they've never before had in their arsenal during the league's history. This isn't just a bargaining chip. It's a loaded gun on the negotiating table, controlled by a 7-player executive committee that includes stars like Nneka Ogwumike, Breanna Stewart, and Nafisa Collier. The decision now rests with them. They could pull the trigger at any moment if talks failed to progress. This move was described by union leadership as an unavoidable response to the state of negotiations, a clear signal that the players feel pushed to the absolute brink. The shadow this casts over the upcoming season is immense, as the league has never experienced a work stoppage. Every discussion, every stalled proposal now happens under the dark cloud of potential strike that could cancel the 2026 season before it even begins, vaporizing all the incredible momentum the sport has built. But what could push a league at its peak to such a dangerous precipice? The breaking point was deeply personal. It wasn't just about numbers in a ledger. It was a perceived insult to the players' value. The confrontation between Nafisa Collier and Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, which reportedly occurred during an unrivaled league event, became legendary. Collier's explosive public accusations that Engelbert told her Caitlin Clark should be grateful she makes $16 million off the court ignited a firestorm. While Engelbert later said she was disheartened by the characterization, the damage was done. For the players, this wasn't just a bad negotiating tactic. It felt like the league's leadership fundamentally misunderstanding and disrespecting their worth. It exposed a toxic mindset, the idea that the league was doing players a favor by providing a platform, rather than recognizing that the players are the platform. This moment transformed the negotiation from a complex financial dispute into a visceral battle for respect. The bitterness from this clash poisoned the well for months, making every subsequent offer from the league seem like it was coming from a place of condescension, not partnership. The players were no longer just negotiating for more money. They were fighting to have their contributions seen and valued as the primary engine of the league's explosive new success. So, why are the players so furious? It all boils down to a simple, powerful slogan they wore at the 2025 All-Star Game. Pay us what you owe us. That phrase isn't just a demand for more money, it's an accusation. The players believe the league's business model has systematically stolen their value for years. Let's look at the numbers, because they're almost hard to believe. In 2025, the maximum salary a veteran superstar could earn was $249,244. The minimum salary was just over $66,000. Now, compare that to the league's exploding worth. The WNBA just secured a new 11-year media rights deal worth $2.2 billion. Team valuations are skyrocketing, with new franchises like the Golden State Valkyries valued at $500 million. Here's the kicker. During this boom, WNBA players receive only about 9% to 10% of the league's total revenue. Let that sink in. In the NBA, players get roughly half of all basketball-related income. Even the NFL and NHL players get a share between 47% and 50%. The WNBA players are getting a fraction of that. As Union Vice President Alicia Clark put it, the league's current proposal is a joke, because it doesn't tie their pay to the business's growth. They're not asking for NBA-sized paychecks. They're asking for an NBA-style principle. If the league makes more, the players who create that value should automatically share in that success. The current deal? It has a revenue sharing clause, but it's triggered only if the league hits near impossible financial targets, a System 1 agent called draconian. The players are done being told to be grateful for crumbs when they're baking the entire cake. But the devil is truly in the details of this broken system. The current revenue sharing model is so convoluted and stacked against the players that it has never once been activated. Here's how it works. Players only get a share of revenue after the league surpasses a specific cumulative annual target. This target was based on 2019 revenue and compounds at 20% each year. To put that in perspective, even if league revenue had magically grown by 20% every single year since the pandemic, an astronomical rate, the players would still not have seen a single extra dime from revenue sharing. Meanwhile, the salary cap itself only increases by a paltry 3% annually, guaranteeing that the players' slice of the pie gets smaller and smaller as the pie itself grows. Experts call this a regressive system. Furthermore, even if the target was miraculously hit, the player's direct cut is just 17.5% of the overflow, with another 17.5% going into a separate marketing fund that only a select few stars ever access. This means rank-and-file players could see zero benefit. The union's demand is simple: scrap this impossible maze. They want a straightforward percentage of all league revenue, specifically a salary cap that is a direct share of gross revenue, starting around 30%. This is what pay us what you owe us really means: a transparent, automatic, and equitable link between the wealth they generate and the compensation they receive. In response to this pressure, the WNBA made an offer. On the surface, the numbers they presented looked revolutionary, and the league hoped the public would see them as incredibly generous. They proposed raising the Supermax base salary to $1 million and boosting the minimum salary to over $225,000. Average salaries would jump to over $500,000. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert framed this as a transformational offer focused on long-term sustainability. But the players and their union looked past the headline numbers and saw a trap. They rejected it almost immediately. Why? Because the structure was designed to lock them into a new kind of struggle. First, the offer reportedly included removing a crucial player benefit: team-provided housing. For years, this has been a standard, allowing players, many of whom play overseas in the off-season, to have a secure, no-hassle home during the grueling WNBA season. Taking this away while raising salaries was seen as a cynical swap, not a real gain. Second, and most importantly, the revenue sharing model was still broken. The league's proposal would give players a share of net revenue after expenses are deducted, which translates to less than 15% of gross revenue. The players are demanding a direct share of gross revenue, starting around 30%. This isn't just accounting jargon. It's about transparency and trust. Players fear that if they only get a cut of net revenue, the league and team owners can use creative accounting, hiding money in management fees, stadium costs, and other expenses to shrink the pot they get to split. As Caitlin Clark herself warned, the proposal looked good for 2026. But what happens in 2028, 2029 when the league has skyrocketed? Guess where we're going to be sitting? In the exact same position. The players believe the league is offering a fancy new cage, not freedom. Digging deeper into the proposal reveals why the players smelled a rat. The league's latest offer does include an uncapped revenue sharing model that could theoretically push a superstar's maximum salary above $1.3 million, with averages potentially reaching $770,000 over the life of the contract. But that uncapped potential is tied to problematic net revenue calculation. The players argue this is a shell game. They point to the current CBA, where the league deducts a whopping 30% off the top for cost of revenue before any sharing is even calculated. In a $2.2 billion media rights era, is that 30% deduction still justified, or is a way to artificially depress the number used for player pay? The union wants that percentage scrutinized and reduced. Furthermore, removing housing isn't a minor detail. It's a massive quality of life issue. For a rookie making the new proposed minimum, a sudden $2,000 a month rent bill in cities like New York or Los Angeles is a devastating financial hit, effectively erasing a huge chunk of their raise. The league argues that with higher salaries, players can afford their own housing, mimicking other pro leagues. But players counter that the WNBA season is uniquely compact and demanding, often involving mid-season trades, making stable, provided housing a necessity not a luxury. They see its removal as owners trying to claw back money they just offered in salaries, a bait-and switch that hurts younger and lower-paid players the most. This offer wasn't a pathway to partnership. It was a blueprint for continued control. This stalemate isn't happening in a vacuum. A seismic shift in player power is driving it. For decades, WNBA veterans operated with a survivalist mindset. They were told to be thankful the league existed at all, to accept incremental gains, and to play overseas every winter to make a real living. The new generation, led by names like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, has completely shattered that old narrative. They arrived in the league as fully formed business empires. Clark's massive endorsement portfolio with Nike, Gatorade, and State Farm is worth far more than any WNBA contract. Reese has built a formidable brand as a cultural icon and fashion trendsetter. Their college games broke viewership records, and they brought those millions of fans with them to the WNBA, driving ticket prices up 300% in some markets and creating a TV bidding war. This changes everything. As one reporter noted, the WNBA has operated like a small league, and in the past 3 years, it's not anymore. It's big. These players don't have the ingrained trauma of nearly losing their league. They come from the nil era where they learned their exact market value as teenagers. When Commissioner Engelbert reportedly told Collier that players should be on their knees thanking their lucky stars for the new media deal, it was a perfect example of the old mentality crashing into the new reality. This generation isn't grateful for the platform. They are the platform. And for the first time, they have the leverage to prove it. The power of this generation isn't just in their bank accounts. It's in their options. Paige Bueckers, the #1 draft pick in 2025, made headlines not just for being selected, but for signing a deal with the unrivaled league that was reported to pay her more in one offseason than her entire rookie-scale WNBA contract. When asked about this, Commissioner Engelbert's response was tellingly dismissive, highlighting the scale difference between Unrivaled's 30 players and the WNBA's 190. But that missed the point entirely. For Bueckers, Clark, and others, these aren't just side gigs. They're legitimate, high-paying alternatives. This generation views themselves as free agents in a global basketball economy. They don't see the WNBA as the only destination. They see it as one potential employer that must compete for their services. This fundamentally rewrites the script. Veterans like Breanna Stewart and Diana Taurasi once had to go to Russia to earn 7 figures. Today's rookies can earn that at home through endorsements or in new domestic leagues. The gratefulness the league expects is for opportunity. The new generation responds with market-based truth. The opportunity is mutual. The WNBA needs their star power and their audiences just as much as they need the league. This confidence allows them to make demands that would have been unthinkable a decade ago and stare down the threat of a lockout without the same level of financial fear that would have crippled previous generations. They are playing a different game, with a new set of rules written by their own market value. With the strike authorization now in place, the unthinkable is on the table, a work stoppage that could cancel the 2026 WNBA season. What would that actually look like? First, it's important to know that a decision to strike is now in the hands of the union's 7-player executive committee, which includes presidents like Nneka Ogwumike and stars like Breanna Stewart. They could call one at any time if talks break down. The consequences would be instant and severe. Players would lose their salaries, benefits, and team housing for role players living paycheck to paycheck. This is a terrifying risk. But this is where the new solidarity comes in. There are strong rumors that the league's top earners, like Clark and Stewart, are helping to build a war chest to support lower-paid teammates during a stoppage. If true, this neutralizes the owner's biggest weapon, financial fear. The owners have far more to lose in the long run. A lockout would hit just as the league's historic new TV money starts flowing in from the $2.2 billion deal. Networks like ESPN, ABC, and new partner NBC, which is set to broadcast the finals, will be left with empty airtime. Corporate sponsors who invested to be part of the Caitlin Clark boom would flee. The incredible momentum of the last 2 years would vanish overnight. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, whose league is intricately tied to the WNBA, has tried to project calm, saying, "We will get a deal done." But he also admitted there are serious relationship issues that need repair. The owners are betting the players can't afford to walk away. The players are betting the league can't afford to lose them. The ripple effect of a work stoppage would be catastrophic and immediate, extending far beyond missed games. The league's calendar would implode. Free agency, scheduled to begin just after the January 9th deadline, would freeze. The expansion draft for new teams, already delayed by the negotiations, will be thrown into further chaos. The 2026 draft, where the next wave of college superstars would enter the league, will be clouded by uncertainty, potentially pushing top prospects toward other leagues. For the owners, the financial model they are trying to protect would take a direct hit. They would still have to pay massive fixed costs for arenas, staff, and operations with zero revenue coming in from tickets, concessions, or local broadcasts. The PR damage might be even worse. After years of being celebrated for its growth and cultural rise, the WNBA would be on the front page for all the wrong reasons, depicted as a league where greedy owners shut down the sport at its peak. The players, unified under the "Pay Us What You Owe Us" banner, would likely win a battle for public sympathy. The owners are playing a dangerous game of chicken. They're assuming the players will blink first when the paychecks stop. But with alternative leagues ready to welcome stars and a potential strike fund in place, the players may be more prepared for a long fight than ever before. The nuclear option would leave no winners, only a smoldering crater where the most promising era in women's professional sports once stood. Here's what makes this negotiation different from any other in sports history. The players have built their own exit doors. While fighting the WNBA, stars like Breanna Stewart and Nafisa Collier have been busy creating alternatives. They are co-founders of Unrivaled, a new 3-on-3 league that offers average six-figure salaries and, crucially, equity ownership to its players. WNBPA President Nneka Ogwumike has also signed with new International 5-on-5 league called Project B. These leagues publicly say they are not competing with the WNBA, but their existence is a game changer. For the first time, the WNBA's top talent has a legitimate, high-paying place to go if talks fail. Caitlin Clark is reported to have a massive offer waiting for her at Unrivaled. This isn't just about leverage. It's about survival. It means that if Commissioner Engelbert tries to star the players out with a lockout, her biggest stars could simply fly their private jets to a different league and keep earning. This fundamentally destroys the owner's traditional take it or leave it power. As former NBA Union President Derek Fisher observed, the players are determined not to leave the girls over the next 20 years in the position that we were in when we had no leverage. They're not just negotiating a contract. They're building a whole new safety net for the future of women's basketball, with or without the WNBA. The threat these leagues pose is both real and symbolic. Unrivaled was founded by active WNBA stars and launched in January 2025, directly in the middle of CBA negotiations. Its very premise is a critique of the WNBA's model: high salaries, equity stakes, and player-centric conditions from the start. Project B, reportedly offering salaries as high as $2 million for short tournaments, presents another lucrative, globe-trotting option. For owners, this is their nightmare scenario. In a traditional labor dispute, the league holds all the cards because it's the only major game in town. That is no longer true. Indiana Fever guard Sophie Cunningham bluntly stated she would be open to quitting the WNBA altogether for Project B. This is a new calculus. If the WNBA doesn't offer a fair deal, players have somewhere else to go that respects their value immediately. It also changes the dynamic for the next generation. Top college players like Paige Buchers are now making career calculations with multiple high-paying suitors, not just the WNBA draft. This forces the WNBA to compete on the open market for talent. The leagues are a powerful symbol of player agency, proof that the athletes don't need to wait for permission to build their own prosperous future. Every time Stewart or Collier promotes Unrivaled, they're sending a silent, powerful message to the WNBA bargaining table. We are not hostages. We are architects. While the fight over millions dominates headlines, the players are battling on other fronts that affect their health, families, and careers. These issues show the negotiation is about basic dignity, not just dollars. First, travel and scheduling. Despite the influx of cash, players still face brutal commercial travel and exhausting back-to-back games, which they argue hurts the quality of play and their well-being. The recent funding for charter flights proved the money was always there. It just wasn't priority until now. Second, roster sizes and job security. The league currently has only 12 roster spots per team. Players are demanding an expansion to 13 or the creation of an injured list to create more jobs and allow young players to develop without the constant fear of being cut. Third, parenthood and family planning. The current CBA made strides for mothers, but benefits like a full salary during parental leave and childcare stipends are only available to veterans with 8 or more years of service. Players want these protections extended to all parents. Fourth, the prioritization poison pill. This rule forces players to choose between their WNBA commitments and playing overseas or for their national teams. As Nafisa Collier bluntly stated, you can have exclusivity without paying for it. The league wants full control of their time, but isn't offering the salaries that would make playing year-round in the WNBA feasible. Each of these points is a landmine in the negotiations, and for many players, they are just as important as the raw salary numbers. The travel issue is a prime example of the league's old mindset clashing with new reality. For years, players documented travel nightmares on social media, delayed flights, nights in airports, and grueling cross-country commutes on commercial airlines that left them exhausted for games. The league long claimed charters were financially impossible. Yet, in 2024, the league suddenly found $25 million per year to fund a full-time charter program. What changed? The explosion of popularity and security concerns around superstars like Caitlin Clark made the old way untenable. For the players, this was proof positive. The money was always there. Their comfort and safety just weren't a priority until it affected the bottom line or created a PR risk. On family planning, the demands are even more personal. Superstar Breanna Stewart, a mother of two, then unlocked the league's $60,000 reimbursement for costs like egg freezing or surrogacy until her 9th season. You have to freeze your egg sooner than that, she argued, pushing for the service time requirement to be slashed. The fight is also for better on-site childcare and nursing facilities, benefits that Unrivaled already offers. Then there's prioritization, perhaps the most hated rule. It has driven away elite international stars like Emma Meesman, who chose her European career over the WNBA's ultimatums. The rule punishes players for pursuing other professional opportunities, which many need to do because WNBA salaries are still too low. As one agent stated plainly, prioritization has to change. These aren't minor negotiating points. They are fundamental issues about how the league values its athletes as human beings with lives, families, and careers outside its narrow schedule.